Welcome to cooking cheap, easy, and tasty meals. I'm going to make a soft sandwich loaf. Now I like bread. I make different kinds of bread, but this is milk bread. Now, I didn't have bread flour. I do have all-purpose flours. So that's 3.5 cups of all-purpose flour. Now, what I can do though, I do have vital wheat gluten. So what I'm going to do is just 3.5 cups. So that means between 1 and 1.5 teaspoons of vital wheat gluten per cup of flour. So that'd be 5.25 teaspoons. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 5 teaspoons of flour out. And then I'm going to add back in vital wheat gluten. Now what that should do is give us the same gluten content as a bread flour. So what that should do is help build a nice strong loaf of bread. Even though it's going to be soft, it'll have strong gluten bonds and have a little more protein in it than it would have with just regular all-purpose flour. I'm just mixing it all up to spread the gluten around. Now, the next thing we're going to do is add a teaspoon of salt. Half a teaspoon at a time. 1, 2 teaspoons of salt. I'm going to do this as a no-knead loaf, and I'm going to let it sit overnight. I'm going to add a teaspoon of instant yeast. Also going to add 2 tablespoons of sugar. It's really mostly just make the bread a little sweeter. The yeast really doesn't need it. I think we all add sugar because we think the yeast needs it, but the way this instant yeast is prepared, it has everything it needs to get started and it will consume the flour. So really it's not necessary that we add that. The next to last thing I want to add is oil. Now I'm going to add sunflower oil because I just like the taste of it. I don't know if it'll make that much difference in here, but you could add olive oil or some other neutral oil. But I like sunflower oil, so I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of sunflower oil. And finally, I'm going to add 1 cup, a little more than 1 cup. It's about 1 1/4 cup. That's probably going to be just right based on how much flour we've got. If it comes out a little too dry, you may have to add a little more, but I think this will be just right. So 1 1/4 cups. Now I'm going to mix this up. Try and get the flour hydrated. This is a lot of liquid for this dough because you want this to be a fairly soft loaf. And so it's going to be a sticky, wet dough, which is fine. So we're just going to keep mixing it until we get a nice soft dough ball. Now we're coming together real well. So I'm going to take my gloves and put them on and try and bring it together the rest of the way. Normally I wouldn't do this, but I've been working in the garden a lot lately and have torn my hands up considerably. I feel like it's probably best to do it this way. I'm going to make sure that we've got everything brought together. Turn this by hand for a little while to help make sure that I have gotten it mixed as well as I can. Now, to kind of finish this up, I'm going to do a little pulling just to finish the mixing. All right. So that looks like a good shaggy ball. almost all of the flour has been incorporated. So I'm going to let this rise for the next 12 to 18 hours. And then I'm going to finish it up. I'm going to cover it with plastic wrap and just leave it somewhere to rise overnight. Okay, it's been about 12 hours. So I'm going to put a little flour on the board and work on the dough a little bit. Get it ready to bake. Let's pull it out. See how it's doing. Looks pretty good. Got a little stretch. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm going to take my baking dish and spray it with a little spray oil. I'm going to take a piece of parchment paper put it inside. You could just cover the bottom, but I prefer to do it like that. And then I'm going to take this I think I will use a rolling pin after all. Trying to roll it to about the same width. So I'm going to roll it up. Pinch the ends under. And drop it in. I want to kind of stretch that fit. Then I'm going to cover it and let it rise for another half hour or so. Okay, the bread has risen over the top of the pan, as you can see. So now I'm going to put it in preheated 375-degree oven, and I'm going to let it cook for about 50 minutes. I take the bread out of the oven. Check the temperature. Should be at least 195 degrees internally. $195 in the center. Not quite enough in the center, but on the ends, it's fine. I'm gonna put it back in the oven for about 5 minutes. I gave it 5 additional minutes, which is a total of 55 minutes at 375. And now it registers over 195, but just slightly more all through the whole loaf. The biggest concern is if you cook it too much, it can dry out the bread. But I'm hoping that this will be just right. So I'm going to pull the bread out and let it sit here and cool, and then we're going to come back and test it. Okay, the loaf took about 55 minutes to cook. It's been resting. I did take butter and smear it across the top when it was hot. And now I'm going to cut it. I'm going to cut some thin slices off. Let's take a look. Nice and spongy, soft. Cuts well. It's a really nice sandwich loaf. Nice top, nice bottom. Should make a great sandwich. So I think that's what I'll do, is make a great sandwich. I'm going to go ahead and cut another piece. I'm going to put a little whole grain mustard on it. Some ham and a little American cheese. There's several other choices I could have made, but I just happen to like American cheese. And last but not least, some pickles from a local store that are spicy, sweet, dill. They have jalapeno and cucumber pickles. And they just add a lot of sweetness and spice to a sandwich. For some reason today I don't have any tomatoes. I think it's because I've got some coming up in the garden, so I didn't buy any. But there we have it. A sandwich on a fresh made loaf of bread, cut in half. And that's it. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and give us a like. Thank you.